The Kings are in San Jose to face the Sharks, and a goalie is expected to make his LA debut. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we're also on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. It really does help out the show. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast. It's a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 17 years and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The LA Kings play game 2 of their 7 straight games against fellow Pacific Division opponents as they are in San Jose to take on the Sharks tonight. First time this season the Kings have matched up against their Northern California rivals. Kings come into this game with a record of 17-6-4 for 31 points, 12-1-1 on the road. They're coming off a 3-2 shutout win in Seattle on Saturday and sit in third place in the Pacific Division. As for the Sharks, they are 9-19-3 for 21 points, 6-6-2 at home. They are coming off a 6-2 loss in Colorado against the Avalanche. Let's check the projected lineup tonight for your Los Angeles Kings. And you will notice right away at the very bottom, if you are watching this on YouTube, if not, I'll tell you about it. But the goalie expected to be in net tonight for the LA Kings is David Rittich. He'll be making his Los Angeles Kings debut, if in fact the reports are true that he is going to be in net tonight. We will talk much more about that in just a moment. As far as the forwards lines for the LA Kings, same lineup we saw in the last game. Obviously, the top line of Kopitar, Byfield, and Kempe has been a constant throughout. Dano, Fiala, and Moore. Ever since Moore was moved up to that second line, they've been very, very good. P.L. Dubois centering the third line with Alex Laferriere and Arthur Kaliyev back there after his brief being out because of the illness. So he's back there on the third line where he was last game. And Carl Grundstrom again on the fourth line, on the Lizotte line, with Trevor Lewis and Blake Lizotte. The defensive pairings, we will see Jacob Moverar apparently again on that second pairing with Matt Roy replacing the injured Vladislav Gavrikov. Tobias Bjornfot is eligible to come back, apparently healthy to come back, but the Kings, Todd McLuhan, Trent Yanni, who runs the defense, apparently they feel like Jacob Moverar's done a decent job so far, so they're going to keep him in the lineup until he doesn't. So rewarding Jacob Moverar for doing a pretty good job to this point. But of course, the big one is David Rittich apparently getting his Kings debut in net tonight, and Cam Talbot will be the backup. As for the goaltenders on the other side of the ice, it is the duo of Capo Kakinen and Mackenzie Blackwood. They've been sharing the net pretty much this season. Statistically, they are the worst tandem of goaltenders in the NHL. Their combined goals against average is around 3.6 per game, and their save percentage is .897. So not great numbers in net for the San Jose Sharks goalies. Not sure who they're going to go with tonight, but frankly, they've been kind of the same goalie so far this season. I don't know that it matters one way or another. As for the Kings as a team, they come in 4th in the NHL in goals scored per game at 3.56. They are number 1 in the NHL in goals allowed per game at 2.41. Sharks are dead last in the NHL, 32nd in goals scored per game, 2.13. And they are dead last in the NHL, 32nd in goals allowed per game at 3.9. The Kings are 16th in the NHL on the power play, 21.1%. They are on the penalty kill second in the NHL, 87.1%. For San Jose, about the same on the power play, actually 17th in the NHL at 20.7%. They are 28th in the NHL on the penalty kill at 73.4%. So the Sharks got off to a horrifically bad start this season, 0-10-1 in their first 11 games, but they are 6-4-1 in their last 11 games. They're also riding a 3-game home ice winning streak. That said, the Kings have gotten the job done against teams they're supposed to beat this season. Of the 27 games the Kings have played, only 9 of them have been against teams that are currently not holding a playoff spot in the NHL. That obviously is the case tonight against the Sharks. The Kings' record against those 9 teams that currently do not hold a playoff spot in the NHL is 8-0-1. The one loss against a current non-playoff team this season was November the 9th against the Pittsburgh Penguins. There have been a couple of close calls, overtime win over Columbus 3-2, and then most recently, the 3-2 shootout win over Seattle. But the Kings have beaten the teams they are supposed to so far this season, and we expect that would be the case tonight. But, on paper, the Kings clearly the better team across the board, but of course the game's not played on paper, it's played on ice. And but we expect the Kings to do what they are supposed to do tonight against a lesser San Jose Sharks team, but it is a division rival. It is a team that certainly will get a big boost out of beating one of the top teams in the league, like the LA Kings. So we shall see what is in store tonight for the Kings. But again, statistically across the board, the Kings are the better team, and they have done a very good job against those lesser teams in the NHL so far this season. Hopefully that will continue tonight. But the big question is, will it get done tonight with a new goalie in net? We are going to talk all about that and more right here on Locked on LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. And as much as we love betting on the NFL, you can also bet on the NHL too. And that includes our Los Angeles Kings. Want to place a bet on the Kings to win tonight in San Jose? You can certainly do that. Also, the over-under is 6.5. Will the total goals in this game be more or less than 6.5? Just use the FanDuel app, which is very easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options. You can go use the point spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on the NHL and NFL all season long. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Well, if it is in fact true, the reports are that David Rittich will be making his LA Kings debut tonight. If that is in fact the case, if those reports are true, I absolutely agree with head coach Todd McLuhan. This appears to be the perfect time to get David Rittich into a game. He'd be taking on one of the worst teams in the NHL on the road, where the Kings have been exceptional this season. And then, of course, the Kings play tomorrow against the Kraken at home. So you go with Cam Talbot in that game against the team that he just beat. So it seems to me, looking at the schedule, this is almost a perfect spot to get David Rittich in net, see what he can do. Again, the Kings have been great on the road. They're playing a team that they should beat. It just makes too much sense not to get David Rittich in at this point and see what he can do. Now, the trends for David Rittich right now are not great. He is riding a personal 6-game losing streak at the NHL level, dating back to last season when he was with Winnipeg. His last win in the NHL came against Seattle on February the 14th, when he allowed 2 goals on 29 shots. In his career, all-time against San Jose, he's got a record of 2-2-2. He faced the Sharks once last season, lost that one 3-2 in overtime while as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, in the AHL with Ontario this season, David Rittich in 16 games had a record of 7-6-3, 2.63 goals against average, and 8.901 save percentage. Now, the same team playing in front of him, first-year pro Eric Portillo, has an 8-1 record, 2.15 goals against average, and a 924 save percentage. So we mentioned this on our previous show, why David Rittich over Eric Portillo. And we talked about it on the episode on Monday, but to recap that, or to go back to that, You know what? And actually, we've got a quote from head coach Todd McLuhan, who talks about why David Rittich or why David Rittich has the call up, why they're going, not necessarily why they're going with him tonight, but why he was the selection to come up. So let's see what the Kings head coach had to say on David Rittich. He said, quote, "He has the experience, and there are, in my opinion, two really good things about that. One, he's been in the league and he understands what happens and how it happens. But two, his teammates also know that. He had a very good training camp with us. We were deeply concerned about losing him on waivers, and fortunately, he didn't arrive on another team's roster, and now he's here with us. Circumstances aren't the best on his arrival, but he'll make good on it, and we're excited about having him." That was head coach Todd McLuhan talking about goalie David Rittich, and that was courtesy of our friend Zach Dooley, the LA Kings insider, who posted that earlier on social media on his game day notes. So again, I agree with the move of going with David Rittich over Eric Portillo, even though Portillo's numbers in the AHL are much better. I think you have to go with the guy initially who has the NHL experience. He's not going to be in awe. He's not going to be overwhelmed by the situation. He's been there. He's done that as recently as last season. And yes, he didn't do great last season later in the year with Winnipeg, which was one of the reasons why they decided to not re-sign him. And he hasn't been great in the AHL, but I think you have to at least see what you have with David Rittich initially. Because of the experience, I think he gets the nod. And we talked about it on Monday's show as well. Eric Portillo now gets to be the number one guy in Ontario in the AHL, and we'll see how he handles that as well. If he continues to kill it and David Rittich struggles continue, then maybe at some point we see Eric Portillo get called up and David Rittich sent back down to Ontario. But again, you have to see what you have in David Rittich at this point. I think, there have been reports out there about the Kings being interested in another veteran goalie. I think all those reports are very much premature at this point. Again, you need to see what you have in David Rittich before you go looking to bring in another similar type goaltender. And obviously what's out there right now, what's available, it's not going to be great. The Kings have salary cap, issues that they have to take into consideration. It's not like they can just go out and get the best goalie available necessarily. They're going to have to get, and not that they're looking for that. Look, Cam Talbot is the number one goalie. We know that. I know there were a lot of people going into this season who felt the Kings at some point were going to need to bring in another goalie. At this point, that's not the case. Now, maybe they want something in the way of depth if Phoenix Copley is going to be out long-term. And we still don't know what Phoenix Copley's status is. We don't know when he's going to come back. We know he's been placed on long-term injured reserve, but what does that mean? There's been no specifics given out about his injury. Is it an ankle? Is it a knee? Is it a groin? We just know he had to be helped off the ice, which is obviously a bad sign. But again, we don't exactly know how long he's going to be out. So again, a lot of reports floating around out there about the LA Kings being interested in getting another kind of a veteran goalie. That may be the case at some point. I don't think it's anything that's the case now. I don't think that's anything that's imminent. I'm sure GM Rob Blake and his staff have a contingency plan pretty much in place for every situation. I mean, when you think of what do general managers, what do front office people do during the season while the season's going on, well, they make contingency plans. I'm sure they have a big board in an office somewhere with a list of the top available goalies, the top available defensemen, the top available forwards, or at least targeted players that are on teams, maybe teams that are struggling, teams that are looking to build for the future, what they might cost, what the Kings salary cap situation is. This is stuff that every front office does during a season to prepare for worst case scenarios. Now, obviously, this isn't the case with the Kings. Phoenix Copley going down isn't ideal, but it's not a worst case scenario. That would be Cam Talbot getting injured. So the Kings are not suddenly now getting in a room and saying, okay, what are we going to do about a backup goalie situation? They've thought about this. They have names in place. There are certain players that are floating around out there. There's a veteran goalie named Antti Raanta who just got placed on waivers by the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes had brought in a veteran goalie, Yaroslav Halak, for a tryout earlier this year before they said no thanks to him. So he's still floating around out there. So again, and you also have to keep in mind what these players are looking to make and how that fits in with the LA Kings. So again, are the Kings thinking about another goaltender? I think they have like I said, they have a contingency plan, But are they going to make a move anytime soon? I don't see that. It doesn't make any sense. You have to see what you have first within your organization before you think about going outside of your organization. You make plans for something like that, but I don't think you get active in talks, making phone calls with other teams at this point. I think those things would be super preliminary, even if they were to happen. So David Rittich is going to be the guy for now. Very interested to see what he's going to be able to do tonight. And then the Kings will see him in action most likely next week when the Kings play back-to-back games again. And then after those two performances, I think you'll have a better idea of maybe what you have and what you're wanting to do. So a lot of dots and check marks to be checked off before, the Kings get to actively searching for another goalie. So again, first step is first. David Rittich in net tonight. We'll see what he can do. I mentioned his numbers in the AHL aren't great. His numbers last season, not as good as well at the NHL level, but to his credit, I guess, or to give him the benefit of the doubt, he didn't have a superior team at the NHL level in front of him as well, like he's going to have with the LA Kings going forward. So we will see David Rittich. We'll be very interested to see how he does tonight, but it's the first step tonight towards him to see what he can do, and the first step towards what the Kings may be thinking at some point when it comes to the goaltending position. As far as tonight against the San Jose Sharks, the keys to victory for the LA Kings, obviously a lot of these things are very basic, but I think first and foremost, play smart in front of a new goalie. And certainly that's been probably one of the keys to success for the Kings on the road all season. When you talk about why have they been so good away from home as opposed to at home, the prevailing theory is that when you're on the road, you keep it simple, you keep it basic. You're not looking to bring the home fans out of their seat with a spectacular goal. And I guess that's as good of an explanation as any as you're going to get. So the Kings have done that on the road, and that's why they've been so good on the road. They keep it basic, they keep it simple, they play their game. And when you have a new goalie in net, I think that just kind of lends itself again to what they've done, and that is to keep it simple, be smart, obviously limit turnovers, don't give the other team any odd man rushes or any breakaways, protect that new goalie, and go from there. I think also get the lead early against a team like San Jose, a team that has struggled this year. Yes, they've been okay at home and they've played decent of late, but this is a team that if you give them a chance to stick around early, then they may stick around for the whole game. If you can jump on them early, get an early goal, get them to get that familiar feeling of what it's like to lose again, kind of creeping into their mind, I think that certainly helps things. The Kings, by the way, are second in the NHL in first period goals with 31 on the season. So the Kings have done a pretty good job of getting off to a good start. Get the early lead on San Jose. Don't give them any confidence going late into the game. We saw that a bit against Seattle when they were able to get on the board early and then stick around for the rest of the game. And then the third key is, I think, finish your chances. The Kings are going to get opportunities tonight against the San Jose Sharks. There's no question about that. I would not be surprised if they outshoot the Sharks by double digits tonight. It's one thing, though, to get shots. It's another thing, though, to finish those opportunities. They didn't really do that in their last game against the Kraken. They're going to get the opportunities tonight. Finish when you get those key opportunities. Get the lead going forward, and it should be a successful night for the Los Angeles Kings. We're going to give you an updated injury report for the Kings and also talk about a big night coming up for LA Kings captain Anze Kopiar. We will do that here next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. I don't, because I use Gametime, the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I personally use Gametime. I bought tickets to NHL and NFL games this season, and I am a very satisfied customer. The app is very easy to use and navigate. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guaranteed. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind when you purchase, and I love how you can view your seats when you're using the app. So you know exactly what you're going to get when you get there. You know what your view is going to be. They've got all-in prices. They show you up front what you're going to pay, and you know you're getting a great deal without any hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps on the app. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The LA Kings face the San Jose Sharks tonight, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, and the LA Kings take on the Seattle Kraken, 7 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow. You can catch every moment of both of those hometown broadcasts of your LA Kings with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search LA Kings. All right, we do want to give you a little bit of an injury update. We talked about Phoenix Copley. He has officially been placed on long-term injured reserve. That was on Monday, and that means he's out a minimum of 10 games and 24 days. I believe the earliest he could be eligible to return would be Tuesday, January the 9th against Tampa Bay. But again, that's when he could return. Have no clue if that's anywhere close to where he would return. Again, we've had no update at all on Phoenix Copley, no details released at all on exactly what the injury is. He's not back out on the ice as far as we've heard. So your guess is as good as mine. But again, we mentioned it the other day, when you are a goaltender, obviously your lower body is very important to you as far as moving side to side, things like that. Some sort of lower body injury, ankle, groin, hamstring, knee, don't know. But he's going to be out for quite a while. And, it looks like he's going to be out for longer than just the minimum of what we mentioned, the 24 days. So they say week to week, probably maybe month to month with Phoenix Copley. At least that's I think the idea, until we get any news that says otherwise. As far as defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov, he is also still week to week. Also the same with Phoenix Copley. No reports of him being out on the ice or skating. We do know that his is a knee injury because of the knee-on-knee collision he had against the Islanders on the road, but no reports of him skating as well. He was placed on injured reserve, not long-term injured reserve, and that was retroactive to December the 10th. So no updates, nothing positive at the moment involving Phoenix Copley or Vladislav Gavrikov. It has been a noteworthy season for LA Kings captain Anze Kopiar, who has set several new franchise records and personal milestones so far this season. As such, he's going to be honored with a special night and a pregame ceremony coming up at Crypto.com Arena. That will be on January the 24th. It's Anze Kopiar Milestone Night, the LA Kings announced, and that will be against a game before the Buffalo Sabres, who will be in town. Of course, Anze Kopiar, in his 18th season, all with the LA Kings, became the franchise leader in games played, passing Dustin Brown this year. That was back on October 21st. He is the new franchise leader in assists. He passed Hall of Famer Marcel Dion back on December the 3rd. He's now second on the Kings in franchise history in points, trailing only Marcel Dion. He passed Luc Robitaille on November the 9th. And also Kopi scored his 400th career goal back on November the 8th against Las Vegas. So obviously it's been a memorable season so far for Anze Kopiar. Hopefully that continues with him lifting a certain trophy over his head at some point at the end of the year, which would be amazing. But a great season so far for Captain Anze Kopiar. And again, if you're interested in being a part of that night, again, it's January 24th at home against the Buffalo Sabres, and all fans in attendance will receive a Anze Kopiar commemorative poster. So if you're someone who likes to collect things like that, that's probably a game you want to circle and be there as well and come out and honor the captain. I know Helene Elliott, the Hall of Fame sports writer for the LA Times, recently did a story on Anze Kopiar. I retweeted it if you follow us on X or Twitter, where I didn't read the article, but I know I saw the headline. I saw kind of the summary of it, and apparently she's in agreement with me, and I don't think this is a very controversial opinion. Anze Kopiar is the greatest LA King of all time, and he's still kicking ass. Come out and see him while you can and enjoy it. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Wednesday's show, obviously we'll have a full recap of the game against San Jose. Very interested to break down and see what David Rittich did, if in fact he is starting tonight against the Sharks. So very excited to break down that. Also, we'll preview the game coming up on Wednesday in LA as the Kings host the Seattle Kraken. And then, of course, on Thursday, looking to have a recap of that the Seattle Kings game. Try and get a special guest to join us as well, talk about the Kings. And then Friday, as usual, it is a Kings fan feedback show. If you would like to get an email in for that show, or you just want to send me an email and talk about anything involving the Kings, we can definitely do that. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave your comments in the comment section below and stay interactive with the show by following us on X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, go Kings, go.